What's going on, Jeromes? Something that we're trying to do more often, a little Q&A session. We'll put it out in the community tab, asking for questions. We'll answer a handful of them. Do it a couple times a week. Try to do it. Go ahead. First up is from Prez. Do you think now that with Kevin, already off to a good start, will the Vikings be Super Bowl contenders for a season or just a playoff team for a couple years until a breakout like McVay and the Rams? Now, if you're going to call the Rams a breakout, yeah, I'm okay with that because the Rams have been continually successful under Sean McVay. Made a Super Bowl a couple years ago, didn't quite work out. Worst Super Bowl of all time, by the way. And then they got over the hump this year. I think that the Rams were instant contenders right away, even with Jared Goff, even with Todd Gurley, even with Brandon Cooks. So I think the Vikings will come out of the gate hot. And we said it became a trope last year, but they're the best 8-9 team in NFL history, best X record team in NFL history. The team has the talent. And O'Connell's not blowing smoke, even though that's exactly what he has to say at his press conference, that this is a talented team. But with better leadership, better structure, and better morale, where it's not, hey, beatings will continue until morale improves. That's not going to be the Vikings culture anymore. So, yeah, I think that the Vikings will come out of the gate hot, especially with Justin friggin' Jefferson taking on some Cooper Cup type work. Come on. Same with Paradise. Is there a specific player you want the Vikings to go after this offseason? Well, I don't know if Samuel is related to Matt Paradise, but I mean, we'll take him from Carolina, especially if it's cheap. My number one guy would be James Daniels, where I understand that the Vikings have needs at cornerbacks. I mean, Ward from the Chiefs is interesting. That's been written about. I mean, well, J.C. Jackson is going to be way too expensive. But in terms of someone who's going to be relatively cheap, say $9 million a year at a position of need, because draft, you take BPA, best player available, best player available, best player available. Free agency is where you address need because you can set your own price, you can scour the market, etc. there. But yeah, I mean, James Daniels, who is a guy I love from Iowa 4 years ago, can play center, play both guard spots. He's great in outside zone, has a solid anchor as well. Yeah, and again, stealing from a division rival to enrich your coffers, yeah, I want me some James Daniels. Skull Vikes 2005. Who would be the perfect player at our first three picks, first, second, third? Love channel, miss the Q&As a lot. Skull. Just shooting from the hip. And, yeah, these guys will vacillate in terms of value. But also, this might be rosy in terms of where they go. 12 will take Sauce Gardner, the cornerback out of Cincinnati. Second round, was it 46, I want to say? Zion Johnson out of Boston College, even though he easily could be a first-round pick. Might be the first guard taken. As well as third-round pick, Nick Bonito. From Oklahoma, especially since if and when the Vikings move to a 3-4, that stand-up outside linebacker role, which Bonito did with a plum at Oklahoma, yeah, we'll take that, man. But Bonito could be an early second-round pick or somewhere in early day two. Corey Saylor, how do you rank this draft class compared to last year? Which positions have the most depth, talent, and which ones are weak? Well, all draft classes are unique. This one's going to be interesting because it does remind me a bit of 2013 when there wasn't a clear-cut number one overall quarterback. I think E.J. Manuel was the only quarterback in the first round that year. That was the year that Geno Smith, first red flag. The Chiefs had the number one overall pick. They took Eric Fisher out of Central Michigan. And Geno Smith, coming out of West Virginia, was seen as, I don't know, like a fringe first-round pick. He showed up wearing a red tie when it was still at Radio City Music Hall. Wearing a red tie. Didn't go in the first round. I don't think he showed up for day two, which, if you're in the green room, they'll take 20 players that are nearly guaranteed to go in the first round. But then he decided not to show up, and then the Jets were like, we got to get us some of that. But he wore the red tie thinking that the Chiefs were going to take but one. It is what it is. But it's interesting is that there's not a clear-cut number one quarterback. I think any of the big six could potentially be the first quarterback taken. Talking about Pickett, talking about Malik, talking about Corral, Strong, Ritter, etc. So, I mean, Howell too. It depends on what the team wants or needs. I think that's a very deep cornerback draft. It's a very deep wide receiver draft. Again, it's a pick your flavor. Do you want the power forward, the go up and get it guy? Do you want the shifty slot guy? Do you want the Z receiver work in the middle of the field? Like, what do you want? What do you want? And it's a great offensive tackle class, but I mean, Vikings are pretty good to go there in terms of offensive tackle wise. It's a unique draft is that it doesn't feel like it's really top heavy. Like, beyond Hutchinson and a couple of the tackles, like there's not a guy that you can say for certain is going to go top 5 beyond Evan Neal, maybe, well, obviously Hutchinson, but it's not like even last year's draft where you could pick one player and be like, this guy is going to be a slam dunk Hall of Famer. I said that about Kyle Pitts at the time. I think that he's going to be on a good track. I don't think you get that vibe with any of these guys. Like, if you had to bet your life savings, actually no, life savings minimum $50K, so you might have to go into Hawk, bet on any of these guys who are going to be a multi-time first team All-Pro, I don't think you could do it. I don't think it's a really good safety class, even though the value of the safety has been depressed, even though Kyle Hamilton might be the best player in the draft. Let's be honest here. See what else here. It's a solid edge rusher class. It's a sneaky good tight end class, but it's one of those drafts where you feel good having multiple picks in the top 100. And if you don't say you don't have a first round pick, but you have 2 2s and 2 3s, like you feel okay with that, because I feel like outside of the top 15, say 16 to 100, there's going to be a lot of players that are really bunched up talent wise and also in terms of career path, where this is a very thick THICC depth draft. It's going to be a really good one. Let's see. Yeah, next up. Kyle Gabrielish. Nailed it. We all know KOC will make some changes, great changes with the Vikings, but what do you think his Achilles heel will be? Even though it's not that big of a deal, and I think that he's going to be fine, I guess him only calling plays in 11 games in Washington back in 2019 could be a thing. Although, I mean, he's on the headset. Yeah, he's seeing the game, right? He does everything. He offers suggestions to McVay. He does everything except for actually call the plays. So I think he'll be fine there. I think that what is great is that O'Connell and Kwesi both come off as genuinely good dudes and genuinely want to be collaborative. I don't think that there's going to be an ego measuring contest like it was with Zimmer and Spielman at the end, which was no good for anyone. I think they truly have moved on. Tyler Brush, by switching to a 3-4, do you think we are more likely to attempt to retain Barr? It's possible, but I would say dirt cheap. Yes, dirt cheap, nothing guaranteed, etc. Any notable free agents that will step in our linebacker core? I don't know, Von Miller. Von Miller, given his history with Ed Donatel as well as KOC and whatnot, I don't see it. But I think that the Vikings would be interesting, because if they do switch to a 3-4 or 3 down offensive linemen as well as standing edge rushers, we should probably say that since nickel is the new base. Yeah, I mean, you're rarely in base defense anymore, but the new regime didn't draft Barr, they didn't extend Barr, they didn't coach Barr, so maybe he's just another guy at this point. But again, 1-year deal, cheap. Stay with Kendricks for a year. Yeah. But free agency, I think the Vikings in-house as well as the draft go for linebacker from there. Todd Haysbrook. Would you prefer us to go full rebuild mode or try to be competitive next season? I think you can accomplish both. And yes, rebuilding on the fly last year, it didn't quite work out. But I think the Vikings are in a good spot now where they have a lot of key talent already under contract. They can fix their cap issues. I think they can still be players in free agency as well as get after in the draft. I think they'll be perfectly fine. Ryan H. Not a Vikings-related question, but have you ever been recognized in public? It actually happens quite a bit, and in really random spots. Like, so I'm in a wedding, and we were at Macy's buying suits, and I had 2 people recognize me. They're like, "What's up?" And where it's always one of those things where you can tell when someone's looking at you, and then you look at them, and then they look away real quick, and then they'll come up and say, "Hey, I love the channel." And everyone's been really cool. Where I'm rarely out in public by myself. Like, I'm always with my kids or family, friends, and whatnot. So, I mean, they're cool. Like, people don't want to invade your space or whatnot. But I would say, well, pre-Rona, I don't know, once a week, grocery store, school, pickup, out at the store, out at a bar a couple times, out in the wild. Yeah, it does happen, but everyone's cool about it. Next up, Conan Billybone. That's a great name. How do you think our current offensive line talent on Rooster works with the new scheme? I don't think that the scheme is going to change much because the Rams do run a lot of outside zone. And, I talked about how I love James Daniels. Brian Allen coming over from the Rams, their center would be great. Austin Corbett would also be great. So I think the Vikings, they're not going to have overall wholesale changes like they probably would have if Harbaugh came in. Because you look at some of the lines that the Niners had under Harbaugh, and it would be all of a sudden, every single dude is going to be 350. It's not going to happen. But, yeah, and undersized athletic offensive linemen can work, but they have to be able to anchor. Bradbury just wasn't able to do it. T. Amua, do you think with new managements, will there be more running or passing? Vikings are going to open things up in the passing game, 100%. Like, the Vikings under the Kubiai, were run to throw, and this one is going to be throw to run, and you'll love to see it. Like, they're not going to completely get away from the run, but it will be, because you're not going to do that if you keep Dalvin, but it will definitely become a secondary thing. John Anderson TV, would you take Desmond Ridder 12 overall? Would you roll the dice and try to get him in the second? So I like Desmond Ridder. I liked him a lot more last year, even though this year Cincinnati made the playoff. I don't think he progressed as a draft prospect. I mean, they had more success on the field, obviously, as a team, but I don't think that he really progressed. And I thought Desmond Ridder was in that Kellen Mond, Davis Mills strata, maybe even Ian Book strata last year, but I'm not going to spend 12 on him. 46, yeah, I think that might be too much value to pass up. Sure. Just the idea guy. Who do you think was the best musical performer in, say, the last 60 years? Obviously, may not see him. So I think there's a difference between a show and a performance. Because, so going in the Super Bowl halftime shows, like this was a great Super Bowl halftime show. But then if you rewatch Prince 2006, that was a damn performance, man. And I've always heard great things about the Rolling Stones, even though they get old. I didn't see them. I think they came to TCF like 6 years ago, something like that. I've seen Metallica live, and that's a damn performance, man. Like that is an experience where I do think that has to be factored in, because live music, just the vibrations going into your brain, and then you get some of that hive mentality going on. You have that connection. I think that live, beautiful, amazing performances, it's you can see why people go to so many concerts. But I haven't been to too many concerts. I will say that. But Queen was probably great back in the day. I'm going to say Led Zeppelin was pretty damn good. And even something ridiculous like 80s hair metal, like Motley Crue shows where, the drummer's going upside down. Or is that Def Leppard? Either way, just performances, like just entertainment, just getting after it, as opposed to, I don't know, just doing the songs, going home. Nah. And also, I think Prince obviously would be up there. I'm very jealous that, so Prince would have these impromptu shows at Paisley Park, and it would be invite word of mouth, no phones, no nothing, but people just cram into Paisley Park, and he'd do the damn thing. Like there's stories about, so Prince played at the SNL 40th anniversary, like after party, and it was just all cover songs, which is what he did in the Super Bowl halftime show as well. God, he's a performer. God, he was great, man. Yeah. Ross Mullins, couple Qs. What do we do with Madison when his rookie contract is up? No. I think we need to learn our lesson. Never give a second contract to a running back, because after Madison is gone, Dalvin's probably long gone. You still have King Kenny, and whatever. Spend another mid or late round pick on a running back and just keep cycling through. Yeah. Also, how much input do you think KOC had in hiring his coaching staff after all he was prepping for the Super Bowl? So what usually happens is that serious head coaching candidates will have a list of, hey, if I get the job, here is who I will want. And they've already made connections, because coaching, it's a very network heavy profession, because it's a very small fraternity of coaches, and it's a lot of, hey, scratch my back, you scratch yours, I work for you, you work for me, blah blah blah. So I think he already on paper and also in like text messages, and it's like, hey, if I get the Vikings job, do you want to come be my XYZ coach? And then the person's like, yeah. And then after he got the job, I'm sure he turned over the list. Is like, all right, so these are my guys that I want. And then the Vikings front office, they worked out contracts with them as Kevin O'Connell was doing that. Like, they weren't hiring guys all willy nilly. Like that wasn't going to be a thing, because generally head coaches, unless it's very random situations, like when Frank Reich came in to the Colts after Josh McDaniels left them at the altar, even though they'd already hired a bunch of assistants that McDaniels is going to bring in, notably Matt Eberflus is now the Bears head coach. So most head coaching staffs are not a shotgun wedding. Like, head coaches will be able to get their guys because they want the best chance to succeed. All right, so that's it for the Q&A installment for today. This week, I don't know. We'll try to do more. Let us know your thoughts on our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But until next time, Skull, production value.